YouTube is so underrated as like a way in which people can learn. Like, why do you think it is that? Because one of the tropes that I see online all the time is just like, oh, you know, they just learned it on YouTube. And I'm like, bro, have you been on YouTube? Like, some of the best educational things that I have ever seen in my entire life are on YouTube. Why do you think people sneer so much at it?
Probably partly because maybe they don't go on YouTube, because if they did, they would be converts. And maybe partly because there is so much trash on YouTube. So it's easy. I think the word YouTube, in terms of, if you say YouTuber, the first thing that kind of comes to mind is trashy content, you know, someone like Logan Paul or Jake Paul or KSI, for example. And you know what? I've watched quite a lot of Logan Paul over the years. I quite like the guy, but nonetheless, it's obviously not particularly highbrow intellectual content. So when we hear YouTuber, I think a lot of people just think of sort of talentless, rich kids that are kind of blagging a career out of nowhere. So it might be something to do with that, the association with the word. But it's a complete misunderstanding. It makes as much sense as saying you just learned it from a book. It's like, yeah, there are a lot of books on a lot of different topics, and some books are trashy and some books are the opposite of that. So it's exactly the same with YouTube. But I mean, it's amazing. It's an absolutely incredible platform. It's mind-blowingly amazing. I had a moment last night when I was speaking to my housemate, and I was just kind of temporarily blown away by how everything is on YouTube. And I'm sure you've had this conversation 100 times before. Like, everything's on YouTube. Yeah, everything's on YouTube. Literally everything, you can find it on YouTube. We've all said it, but my God, is it true? You know?
Yeah, well, it's becoming less and less true. Unfortunately, but for now, I mean, like Jordan Peterson, right? For example, because I was watching, I'm in the middle of his Maps of Meaning lecture series. Just sort of whenever I get I'm washing the dishes or something, I'll stick it on for a bit. But like, that is a guy who was at like one of the top lecturers at one of the best universities like in the world. Like in Toronto, he's one of like the best lecturers there. It's like a really highly rated university. He was like at Harvard as well. And this guy has like his entire lecture series, like the entire course that you would take, that people pay like tens of thousands. Like, I don't know if you've seen that college admissions scandal documentary on Netflix. People paying like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to get their kids into like Harvard, like Stanford. Like, that's the caliber of lecturer he is. And we can watch his like best work on YouTube for free. Like, what?
It's absolutely amazing, and I think it's really changing the nature of learning for a lot of people. I had a close conversation with a family member. He's very intelligent, very studious, but he didn't go to university or anything like that. He just does it for his own pleasure. And I said to him, like, you should really go to university. You should really go to university and cultivate your skills in that environment. He always seemed like perplexed by the idea. He's just like, why would I do that? For what reason would I do that? Now, of course, there are reasons. You network, you might meet more interesting people, you'd be put in that environment where you would be maybe pushed beyond your comfort zone and so on and so forth. But at least in theory, if your motivation is solely to learn and you're willing to put the same amount of time in at home as you would at university, there is no reason to go to university. You could argue. We could get into the nuances of that, I suppose, but I suppose the overwhelming point is that everything you need to learn is out there.
Yeah. Did you go to uni?
No, I didn't go to university.
Do you feel like you missed out in all?
Yeah, I think it would have been an interesting experience. I wouldn't say it's a deep regret of mine that I spend too much time pontificating over. I also wouldn't say it's too late, because I do sometimes still feel like a cheeky degree, maybe something I might be able to squeeze in there at some point. But do I feel like I missed out? Yeah. Yes and no. I'm sure I would have enjoyed it had I gone, but it's not something I particularly dwell on. What about yourself? Did you go?
Yeah, I mean, I did law at Queen's in Belfast, law and politics, but like, I didn't go to class. It was an excuse for a booze up. Like 3 years of partying, and including 2 weeks of cramming before every set of exams. Like, it wasn't like I've had far greater an education from doing this podcast and from reading and like exploring the world since then. Like, university wasn't somewhere where I learned a lot, I think, apart from like looking after myself, basically. And
I suppose sorry.
no, I was just going to say, I've spoken to a number of people who are like, oh, I did my bachelor's and, I'm going to go back and do this master's, or I want to go do this PhD program. So I got to do the master's first. It's like 3 years. And then, then I'll be ready to step out into the world. And most of the time for me, it looks like having been and done my bachelor's degree, I'm not even sure it's that essential to the world. I feel like it's an excuse to not go and, step outside of like people who like go to do masters just because. I feel like they're reluctant to leave the safety of the university campus in a way.
Yeah. That's something I've given thought to. It's a slight segue, to be honest. This isn't exactly the same as what we're saying, but it made me think of something I've been thinking recently. Like, I wonder the extent to which a lot of people that devote their lives to academia, to writing books, to studying, to writing essays and articles, I wonder to what extent that's a kind of distraction from actually living and embracing life in its fullest in other areas. I wonder if an intensive study on academia can be a sort of a distraction from going out into the world in general.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No,
I think some people hide. I think some people hide in their intellect. I think almost.
It's also like when you're writing about like some events or topic or subject, like it's especially when it's something that is that affects like your world generally, like in whatever capacity. I feel like the ability to try and be a spectator of it almost is a way that you can prevent yourself from becoming like emotionally wrapped in the topic, which was like often seen as the better way to approach things, to get like objective or like quote unquote objective like takes on something. But maybe that's like maybe the people who are doing that the best are the people least qualified because they haven't experienced life. They're just writing about it.
Yeah, well, again, this is almost another segue. So I'm sorry for this stream of consciousness, but something I've been getting into recently quite a lot. I've been reading about psychology, developmental trauma, emotional processing, and I find it quite startling that someone can go to university and start studying this at the age of 18 and be kind of a fully qualified therapist or psychotherapist like in their early to mid 20s. And I think that I don't think that you really can study yourself into being able to have an in-depth, textured, layered understanding of the potential suffering and the nuances of the human experience. I almost feel like you have to, in order to be like a really intuitive and wise and capable therapist or psychotherapist, you need to have a certain amount of life experience and to have been through a certain degree of suffering yourself. And you can read books and learn about theories, which are no doubt extremely useful, but I don't think that it's all you need. So that kind of hops on the point you were making as well. But I'm going around the houses a bit, so I apologize.
No. It's all right. Don't worry about it at all. You made me consider. It's like what age do you think people are done? Like not even done, but like I don't know. I've had the pandemic was great for a bit of reflection. Aside from all the other awful side effects, I was like sometimes I think now, and I'm like, oh my God, Josh of 25 years old or 22 or 20 was like, that guy was an idiot. Like, I'm like, how was I that dumb? How was I that naive? How was I that just stupid? And I wonder, and I'm like when do you think people can genuinely be considered adults that could give like that kind of psychological counseling? Like, at what age do you think people are mature enough for that?
Yeah, it's such a difficult question. Of course, you can't put a number on it because it is going to be so different for everyone. So in that respect, it's a question that you can't really answer. But I would probably say that that to be able to go straight from school into doing a university course in it, that there would be some limitations in their experience. Like myself personally, I would say I've developed emotionally so much just in the last year or so. Just in the last year, having gone through a difficult breakup, having had some high quality therapy, having kind of got in touch with things that happened when I was younger, I would say that my emotional life is far deeper and richer and more layered than it would have been had I just gone to university and studied it at the age of 18, because that degree would have ended 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
That's it really. I just I don't know really how they would ever be able to alter that, of course, but it's certainly bears thinking about. But then even beyond that, it's not even just an age thing, I suppose, because people can be 30, 35, 40 and not have had any really deep introspection or many emotional reflections or experienced suffering. I suppose rather than it just being an age thing, I'm actually also just touching on the difficulty of formatting and categorizing complex emotional healing, you know, into book form, into course form.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment for us in the comments below. Let me know what you thought and if you'd like to see more of this from the show. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time.